Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. Are you a candle maker looking for support, strategy, and a like-minded community? Then you need to check out the Candle Makers Collective. The Candle Makers Collective is my exclusive membership where you get weekly live group coaching, expert guidance, and a supportive network of fellow candle makers so you never feel stuck or alone in your business. There's also an ever-growing library of helpful resources, including ebooks, social media guides, templates, and more. So if you're looking to take your business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend, and welcome to another candle maker conversation, this time with the beautiful Sue from Revamped Treasures. Now, for those of you playing along, you'll know that we had Sue on the podcast back in February last year, 2024, episode 109. So it's been almost 12 months since we've last had Sue on a solo episode, and this will be the first episode where you can actually see the two of us, not in person, but you can see us through your screen, because in my last solo episode, I asked the listeners if they would like to see, the actual podcast conversation. And Sue said, yes, absolutely, count me in for that. So here we are, and you can see us, which is kind of scary, but also very exciting. Now, Sue, would you like to say hello to the listeners? And for those that might not have listened to our last episode together, share a little bit about your story and about your journey.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. I have been making candles since 2011. I absolutely still love it. So 14, 15 years on, I still love it. I started off very small. I set myself some guidelines to begin with, and I feel like I've stayed on that same track. Been selling at market since 2017. And it's just a passion. I absolutely love it. And I'm so glad to still be here after all that time.
And still learning things as well. There's no end point of that knowledge journey. It's very much, you just keep building and building on what you know. And then you're able to share that knowledge with other people, which is so beautiful.
Yes, always learning, always learning.
Which is kind of exciting to know that you're never going to run out of things to grow and evolve into. It's not just, okay, I've, quote unquote, mastered how to make a candle and that's it. It's, change with the times, learning about marketing, seeing what your customers are after, introducing new products, and just growing as a person as well, which you do so wonderfully.
Thank you. Yes, it's a big learning curve from when I first started to where I am now. All the time there's things that I'm picking up from within the Candle Collective. There's lots of things I learn from other makers too. So yeah, I just, am always growing and learning.
Definitely. Now, because you're in the Candle Makers Collective and we meet, well, it used to be fortnightly, but now we meet every week. I know what you've been up to in your journey, but the listeners might not have that knowledge. So what have you been up to in the past almost 12 months since our last podcast recording?
Well, I have just been going along doing my markets as usual, but being part of the collective has been a bonus for me over the last 12 months, because that's about it. I think I've been in there nearly 12 months now. And so for me, it's a good way of keeping me in check and going in the right direction. But generally, it's just been markets as usual, just everyday stuff with the candles.
Yes, and that's the thing about being consistent in your business, is that you're looking for opportunities to grow and discovering markets that you want to attend and improving the improving the outcome for your customers, because you're evolving as a candle maker as well as a business owner.
Yes, so last year we went away on our first away market for a long time. We'd done them pre-COVID, but we hadn't got back into them since COVID. So our first one away last year. So again, it was a great market, but also a learning curve, because that's the direction I want to go into when we retire, is do a lot more away markets, go away, camp somewhere for a weekend, do a market, come home, do the local markets, and do other away markets again. So Yes, last year was a learning curve for that.
Would you say that the market that you went to was not challenging, but it just brought a different perspective to the market experience because it wasn't local and it wasn't a known market to you?
Uh, I could not begin to say how much of a learning curve it was. Because I'm local and people know me, they've seen me at markets. So you had that whole know, like, and trust factor, but it was like going in cold turkey. Nobody knew me. I could have been anyone. Why are they going to spend with me if they've never seen me before? So I drove away from that market with a little list of things on how I would approach it the next time. So it was still a very good market, but again, you don't know the people that organise the market, so you don't have any pull. Is probably not the right word, but you aren't put in your usual spot, so you're just sort of placed anywhere, and it's all a little bit hickledy pickledy. So it was a very, very big learning curve.
Yeah, amazing. And it's interesting because when we're faced with, I'll use the word challenge, like along your journey, when we're faced with different challenges, that can, for some people and for some candle makers, be enough of a hurdle to say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. But for you, and what I love is that you've looked at it and gone, okay, this is a learning opportunity. This is how I can grow. You've written your list of things to improve on for the next time. So that's you stepping into that, that growing up phase of, okay, I need to put my big girl pants on and I need to try again. I need to try different methods, different tactics, different strategies, and to see how that works the next time, as opposed to saying, I'm never doing that again. That wasn't what I was hoping for. So I love your perspective and attitude when it comes to looking at different situations with your business.
It was very interesting because I took a lot of things that I thought were my best sellers locally, bigger candles, my beautiful statement pieces, but people bought more of the little stuff, the $40 candles, the $20 candles. I don't think they were prepared to commit to the bigger, more expensive ticket items. So that would be something I would do next time. I would make it a lower price bracket so people were feeling comfortable to spend that money this time, and then maybe next time they go, oh, I remember her from last year, my candle burnt really well, I will buy the bigger one this time. So
Yes.
that was a big factor for me.
Absolutely. And it's a good piece of advice for anyone that's considering doing markets or may already know this if they're already in the market scene, is that having that range of price points is really important because you just don't know what people are prepared to spend. And if it's the first time they've seen you, they're not necessarily going to go for the biggest statement piece or the most expensive candle because I don't know how well your candles burn. I mean, you can show them the reviews, you can tell them all the things and give them the care cards and all that, but unless they've actually experienced your candle in person or they've bought it for a friend and then they've got the review from their friend, they're not necessarily going to buy a bigger piece. And that's the same with online sales as well. They're more likely, you'll find, with people buying smaller products, smaller candles, but more of them until they've got that first or second order, and then they'll be more likely to invest in a larger order.
Yeah, absolutely. And also with those bigger markets, because this was a really big market, you're not the only candle maker there. So you get a lot of, oh, I really like your stuff. I'm just going to walk around and I'll come back. But honestly, that market was so big, they would never find me again. And, then they've seen 6 other candle makers, which is great because I love that there's lots of people out there, but you've got to take all those things into consideration.
Yes, 100%. And we're not market bashing. We love markets
No,
here on the
we love
podcast.
market. Yeah.
It's just to be mindful about setting your expectations in check rather than thinking just because I'm taking all my stock doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to sell all my stock. I might only sell a small portion, but that's still brand exposure. It's still customer interactions and it's still money coming into your business. Just let your expectations be low so your excitement can be high once you've done the market.
And I think when it's not your regular market, you get so comfortable at your own regular market. Your people know you, they come and visit you. But when you're a complete stranger, it's just a whole new ball game.
Yes. And that's part of the, I guess, experience of doing markets is that you need to be that stranger to begin with until you build up that rapport with the people that go to the markets and the market stall holders as well.
And then the other things you need to factor in too is, the expenses of traveling. So we had the the petrol, we had the accommodation, we had the meals, we had the dogs being put into kennels. So there's a lot of expenses before I even got there compared to your local market.
Yes, definitely things to consider. Now, when it comes to the craftsmanship of your candles, how have you evolved as a candle maker in the last 12 months as opposed to when you first began all those years ago?
Well, again, I come back to the collective because I sort of see it as a group that holds me accountable. So I have in the past been a little bit heavy-handed on buying new scents and jars. And so this year I made a pledge in our group that I was going to be very aware of what I was spending my money on, and that has been amazing. So this year I've had probably the same turnover as the previous year, but because I haven't been spending on my side of things willy-nilly, after expenses, it's been a better year for me money-wise. Same amount of market, same amount of sales, but because I've made that commitment not to buy things excessively because, oh, I like the sound of that. Oh, that's a pretty jar. Oh, I could do that. So that's kept me in check, and I've really appreciated that. So that has been a good thing this year.
I love that. And isn't that interesting that, in today's economy, people are so easily saying, my sales are down, I'm not doing so well, everything's so hard. And I'm not taking away the fact that that is difficult for some people, but you're still making sales because you're being consistent in your business. You're going out there and doing markets and being in front of your potential customers so that they can become your customers and your candle addicts, as opposed to sitting back going, it's all too hard and I'm not going to bother because I'm not making sales anyway. There are many conversations I have with candle makers where if there's just a shift in attitude, a shift in perspective, I think that they would find a lot more success on their journey. Maybe not instantly, but it's that, one foot in front of the other, keep moving forward, keep having that consistent action and that consistent momentum. And that's where you find your results. And that's something that you do so well, is that, rain, hail or shine, you're out there, you're doing the work, you're in the candle cave, you're doing what needs to be done, and you're seeing the success of that because you're putting the work in.
I do think being consistent at the markets, and I think 2024 was a tough year for market vendors in general. I think everybody was just doing it tough out there. So everybody across the board noticed that their sales were down, but you still need to be consistent at the market so that people see you, they come back. And I noticed this year a lot of candles that people bought were not so much for themselves. They would still buy them for themselves, but it was for gifts. So a pop-up yesterday in European Central, Saturday it was. I actually thought it was going to be a big Valentine's Day market, but the amount of people that said they were buying them for birthday gifts, it was huge. It was every second person, oh, I've got a birthday, they're this age, what do you think? So birthdays.
And the good thing is that there are birthdays all throughout the year, so you can capitalize on that, not just in February.
Yes.
How has the response been from your customers as you've grown as a candle maker? Are you finding that the types of reviews that you get or the comments that you get are changing over time? Or is it but is it the same sorts of comments that you've received?
I think it's probably the same sorts of comments. So on Saturday, a lady walked past. She didn't buy candles, but she had bought a big heap before Christmas. And she stopped just to say, your candles at Christmas time were a success. Everybody loved them. It's that sort of feedback all the time. I've had other feedback. A lady was chasing again candles for a gift, and she messaged me. So she doesn't get to markets very often, but because our little township is quite small and quite close, I said to her, I'll bring in, 6 or 7 candles. You can pick out what you want. And she, when I visited her at the shopping centre, like I was in the car park, and we do this I call it the candle drug deal. She said to me, I am so glad that you're still here. She said, I was a little bit worried that I would look for you and I wouldn't be able to find you because this is the jar I wanted and I thought it looked really beachy and it would be a perfect gift. So I like that people are still looking for me and they appreciate me still being here after all this time.
Mm. And isn't it interesting that there are so many candle makers that come and go, but when you show that you're consistent, you're passionate, you're dedicated and determined, that people resonate with that so much more strongly because you're not just a flash in the pan. You're here for the long haul. You've shown that already, but there's so much more growth and so much adventure to come for you.
Mm. And I do see that at market, after all this time at market, I have seen a lot of candle makers come and go. And can you hear my dogs? I'm so
That's
sorry. I'm
okay.
just going to move.
Sure.
After all this time, they start off quite small on their prices, quite a low price to try and get the customers in. But my advice to them would be to know what your worth is, and you will be around for longer than if you just start cheap and
Yes.
try to capture the market that way.
Yes. It's so interesting seeing candle makers race to the bottom for their prices because there's that mindset of, I will make more sales if my products are cheaper. But if you're not covering your costs, if you don't have a healthy profit margin, if you're not accounting into your time as well, your business won't be sustainable and you won't last. You'll think that the business hasn't worked, or you'll think that the candles don't work, but really again it comes down to, are you doing your research? Are you doing your market research? Are you working out your cost of goods and figuring out, are you going to do ×2 for wholesale, ×4 for retail, or where do you fit in that calculation? And it's so disheartening when you see so many come and go. I mean, I've said this on the podcast before, but I've had candle makers on the podcast that have these big dreams and aspirations. And then when I contact them 12 months later to say, hey, come back on the podcast, let's recapture where you're at, they say, I'm not doing candles anymore. And it hurts my heart so much that they can't be in that for the long haul. Now, there are obviously a variety of reasons why people don't continue their business, but most of the times when I'm speaking to these candle makers that are no longer candle makers, it's very much of, I couldn't do it anymore. It just wasn't sustainable. So it's so nice to have that reassurance from you, Sue, to say, look, price your products accordingly as they should be. And then that will help. It's just one piece of the puzzle, but it will help with the longevity of your business.
And it is true because when I'm at market, I'm not a sticky beak at other people's candles. Like I'll go say hello, introduce myself and stuff, but I don't get into, really having a poke around. But I will see that they've got a beautiful jar, say it's from luxurious candles. And I myself have looked at the jar and loved it, so I know how much it is. And then I see like it's a 350 gram candle and they're selling it for $20. And I know for a fact that the jar costs at least $10, but it's not my place to say to them, you should put your prices up. I would be at least putting $30 on that without even knowing the cost of their wax that they're using, the scent that they've used, how much freight's been involved. But don't undersell yourself. I don't think a cheap candle means that it's going to be quality, but people see cheap and they just buy cheap.
Unfortunately, that is the case majority of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, have you brought out any new products or any new collections in the last little while?
I have. I brought out some bubble bath, which again is all refillable jars, so they can bring the jars back and I'll refill them. So that's been going quite well. For Valentine's, I done flower melts, which was really cute. So they're just the bigger daisies, and they're in the silicone molds. I pulled those. I put little sticks in so they stand up. They were really successful at market, and I'm just trying to decide whether I'll bring them to market all the time. There was a lady at market on the weekend and said, oh, Sue, they look so beautiful. I think you should get little boxes with the flower styrofoam, is that how you say it? And put them and bring them to market all the time. So stand them up so people can buy a little bunch of flowers and have them at market all the time. So I really like that idea, but I'm just trying to work it in with my vintage recycle refill vibe. So I think I might look for some little vintage crystal vases and do the same thing in that, but sell them as a bunch. Then they can bring their vase back and I'll refill it.
That's a beautiful idea. I really like that. I think that's
Mm.
still staying on brand and on mission for
Yeah.
you, what your business represents, but it brings something new and fresh that it's not too high a price points, that it can help bring people in, fall in love with your products, and then they can become candle addicts in your Facebook group, and it just keeps going from there.
It's another idea for birthdays too. You know, you have a friend you're having coffee with, but you don't want to spend, you know, $20 or $30 on a gift. So you can buy a bunch of flowers for $10. And 9 out of 10 people have some sort of melter at home. I also introduced last year the electric melters, which have been working amazingly. Actually, I might have introduced them the year before, but they are just big sellers now, because I did have mentioned in the past that if someone buys 2 or 3 candles, I'll give them a free melt. And so then they go home, they like the melt, they come back next time, they buy some more melts. And then we have the electric melters. So that sort of all works in with that whole vibe. You know, they're all products that they can reuse, the electric melters, and like the melts I don't use the plastic clamshells. I wrap them in recycled music paper. So the customers love that whole, I can reuse it again. The electric melter I can use forever. The flower melts I can put in the top of my electric melter. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love how passionate you are with that mission of, reuse, recycle, reduce waste. All of it is so important, especially in today's day and age. It's 2025. Environmental factors and sustainability are huge talking points, and that's been part of your ethos from the start. So it's really awesome.
I do it with the diffusers, the reed diffusers as well. So people bring their bottles back and we refill the bottles and then they take them home again. And so, and I tell them it's like, I don't know, you're probably not old enough for this. It's like the old milk bottle exchange, you take your milk bottles back and you get 5 cents off your milk bottle. Same thing with the diffusers. I tell everybody, you bring them back, it's like the old milk bottle exchange. I'll give you $5 off your next diffuser if you give me the bottle back.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, I have heard of this mysterious milk bottle exchange where you'd leave, the milkman would come and drop off the milk out the front of your house. You just don't get service like that anymore, do you?
That was when we were green, when we were 100 years ago.
Which is funny because you're only 25, Sue. So how does that math work? Hello, my friend. Are you ready to level up your candle business? I've put together an ebook called 10 Proven Strategies to Scale Your Candle Business. And the best part, the ebook is completely free. So whether you're just starting out or looking to boost your existing business, the strategies and tips in this 9-page ebook will help you attract more customers, increase your revenue, and grow with confidence. Check out the link in the show notes to download your copy. All right. So when it comes to the community that you've created, not only in your Candle Addicts Facebook group, but also people that come and see you regularly at the markets, how do you encourage them to continue to be a part of your world, even though, the economy is tough and candles are seen more of a luxury item? How do you nurture your community?
So I have a private page. It's the Revamped Treasure Addict. So that's not everybody. I have a Revamped Treasures page and then the Addicts page. So that's an invitation only type thing. And I'm always putting little things on there. I invite them to tell me what scents they'd like to see come out in the melts. We talk about what fragrances are coming the summer or winter and ask them what they'd like. Just before Christmas, I knew everybody was doing it really quite tough, and people were talking about, we're not actually doing presents this year, that sort of thing. Like the community here was feeling it. So just for the addicts, I gave them a gift voucher for every purchase. So if they spent $30 or $60, I gave them a $3 voucher, a 10% voucher, a $6 voucher. So I'm seeing them come back now, and I felt like well, everybody appreciated. They really liked it because sometimes it was only $3 for a gift voucher, but then they had 2 or 3 others and they put them all together so they can use them. But I only do those sort of special things for the addicts, for the people that are consistently buying from me. I want them to feel special. I don't want it to be like, you go to Target and every week they've got a $10 sale or they've got a sale. I want it to be the people that buy from me all the time that get the rewards. That's the word I'm trying to look for, the rewards. So on the pop-up on the weekend, it was for Valentine's Day. On the addicts page only, I offered them a 15% discount, and all they had to do was say, I love candles. So I had quite a few come up say, I love candles. And I went, woohoo, you get the 15% discount. And so for instance, one lady, I think she bought maybe 4 candles. So in the end, she ended up getting one little candle completely for free. So she got a $25 candle for free. So they're the little things I do, but I just do it in the attics. I don't do it for everybody. So it has to be for my community so they want to come back.
Yes, 100%.
Very long-winded.
No, that's perfect because it really emphasizes how important it is to treat your customers as VIPs because they've invested in you multiple times. So they're already addicts for your business. They love what you do. They love what you create, and you're rewarding their purchasing behavior with not only appreciation and gratitude, but actually saying, look, I'm prepared to give you a discount, and this is a VIP discount, or it's a VIP gift card, or it's something special just for you. In this group where they can then communicate with each other and share their love of your products and candles and business and you as well. So, yeah, I love that community is so important, and that's across any business. But when you think about candles and what they represent and how it's, a moment of time where you're investing in your self-care, or, you're reading a book on the couch with your pets all snuggled up, and they're such an emotive product. So then to be able to connect with them on that emotional level, and really it's so genuine and so beautiful, I think is so, so important. And it goes into promoting community over just a transaction.
Like Medibank Private, you're always getting these emails, join up now and I'll give you the first 3 months. And I think I've been with you for 30 years and you give me diddly squat. So that's why I went with the addicts. They are the people that are always coming back time and time again.
Yes, absolutely. And, for the candle makers that are listening, maybe consider starting a Facebook group that is just for your VIP customers, and then inviting them in, via email, or when you see them at market, have a QR code, make it really easy for them to join that group. And then you've got this space where you can really nurture them, share tips and tricks about how to use your products, but also just general things that can benefit them and add value, rather than here's a sale, here's a discount, here's a promotion code. It's more about the connection over the transaction. And you'll find that as you go into further into your candle making journey, that you'll want to nurture those relationships because they're investing in you, and you naturally want to give back to them.
And it's a good group to try new things. You're not comfortable with videos and lives and dancing on. If I'm going to do something for the first time, that's the group I'll do it on, because I feel that I won't. Well, they can laugh at me all they want. I laugh at me too, but they're going to nurture me. They're going to be honest and go, oh, Sue, don't do that again. That was crazy, So I like that. It's like my tribe, and I feel comfortable enough to do the things that I'm not prepared to do on the other side yet until I'm more comfortable with it.
Yes. And from a business point of view, it means that you can, put the feelers out and say, hey, I'm thinking of bringing out this product or these new fragrances. What do you want to see me create? And then they can they can have their input and share that. And it gives you that business insider knowledge that you wouldn't have had. And you might have just gone, oh, I'm just going to bring out a product because I want to bring out this product, but it might not necessarily sell that well. So you're testing the market, you're testing people that already know, like, and trust you and your brand.
And it's a good way to discover things that you may not have discovered. Hence, considering I'm not buying any extra scents, but they will come to me and say, hey, you haven't got this. And then I think, oh, that sounds really interesting. So then I'll do a little bit of research and think, maybe I will bring that. So it's a good way of, like you say, testing the market, but without having to wait until you actually get to market or to see if your sales on online selling are going off. It's a really easy way to do it. And if you're not comfortable on showing your face or talking, the private groups are great for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because they already know what you look like. They've seen you at market, so there's no surprise.
Definitely, definitely.
Now, on a personal level, how do you feel that you've grown as a candle maker in the past year, the past 5 years, the past decade? How have you, like, what sort of insights or realizations have shaped your approach to making candles?
Well, to be honest, when I first started, I turned out some ugly candles. I tell you, ugly, ugly, ugly. It's given me more confidence to dabble with scents, mixed scents. I'm more confident in how I present myself at market, the way the candles are presented at market. In the early days, it was all about learning what people liked, how to interact with people. So there's definitely been a big growth from when I started to where I am now. The market setup when I first started was crazy, crazy. Now it's really quite streamlined. I still have my little vintage vibe in there, even if I'm in the tent with my old boxes. But you know, in the first days, I used to take these big vintage tables and you know, those wooden horses with an old door on top. I really went that whole vintage vibe, but it was so much like hard work that I had to fine tune that. But with the candles, I've grown a lot too. Um, I have a feel for how a scent's going to work. So if it's patchouli and sandalwood and I've used it, you know, in 3 or 4 jars, I already have an idea of how it's going to burn in another jar. So it's just that little bit easier. I still go back to keeping notes. I know I say this all the time, but I wished I'd kept notes in a much better format to begin with. So just last year, I have daily notes. I write them all down. I have them in folders in date orders. But when you're trying to find a customer's note, so I say I made a candle for someone 12 months ago, you've got to flick, 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 and you know, just to find those notes. I now put it on a spreadsheet. I type it all up. You know, once a week I come in and type it all up. And so I've got a whole year's worth now that I can look up under scent. I can look it up under jar. I can look it up under the candle customer's name. And it has been a lifesaver. Just this January, February, I've printed it out and I'm flicking back to it all the time. When did I last make these? So how long has it taken me to sell those 12 candles? It's a really, really good way of keeping on top of things. Or if a candle addict says to me, Sue, the last lot of refills you done for me, I can't remember what scent you used. So I go through this little spreadsheet, I find their names. You had this candle, this scent, this scent. And I also then keep all the wick sizes and the percentages, and it just makes life so much easier.
Yes, absolutely. And having those thorough notes to refer to means that you can free up your mind trying to remember those sorts of details. And there's so many different things to remember, not just in the testing part, but then, as you said, like when you sold those products, keeping a record just goes to show how important your customers are to you because you're remembering those little details. It's not just the transaction, it's not just you pay me money, I give you a candle. It's very much, you have this strong belief this person will come back and I want to make sure I know all the details from their last purchase so that I can provide that excellent customer service.
And also,
Yeah.
like with new jars and new scents, just say I poured them last February and I've still got 2 sitting on the shelf. You know, I can go to that and go, oh, that's velvet vanilla or something. And so I'll go back, when did I make that? Oh, that's not selling well. You know, I don't think I'll make that again.
Yes.
So they're all the little things that when you keep notes, just makes a world of difference.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking ahead for Revamped Treasures, where do you see yourself in another 12 months' time?
I will still be at market. This year, 2025, we are actually going to do more away markets. So we were traveling recently and I dropped into a market that I know has a monthly market on. It's sort of in between two towns. So I dropped in and seen them and asked them what their arrangements were. We have a car with a rooftop tent that we pack the candles in now. We can tow Effie behind it, but just for the first market, we'll just go and put the tent up. But they have camping on site. So they're the sort of markets I'm looking for because it's usually like $10 or $20 to camp on site. They have showers, they have toilets, whereas if you're staying in a motel, it does get quite expensive. So that's more of that this year. So yeah, come back and ask me how I've gone with that.
I will.
Yeah, and just I need to get my email list back up and going. That's a big thing. I've been naughty and let it go. Naughty, naughty Sue.
And that's something that we've discussed in the collective in our group sessions each week is, well, not every week we're mentioning this, but yes, we're certainly reminding you about being accountable to that and making sure that we don't let our email list die. We don't let that be unnurtured, because it is so important for people to have you at top of mind, so that when they do have a birthday coming up or there's a special occasion, that they can think, oh yes, Sue, candles, yes, that's what I want to invest my money in. Would you say that at this stage of your journey that you are successful?
I would love to say, yes, I'm really successful. Woo, woo, woo. I knew you were going to ask me this question. And hand on my heart, if I was to go back to Sue that went to that first market and I seen me there, I'd go, that's where I want to be. And so I feel like I've really achieved all of the things that I wrote down initially. And I did say to you last time that the markets are my apprenticeship for when we are going to travel with the candles. So I'm sort of just starting to put my toe in the water and get ready for that. So yes, I would say I'm as successful as I want to be.
Yes, and that is such an important part to add on, is that success is determined by each person and what their goals are and what they want out of their candle making and business journey. It's not that everybody has to hit a certain milestone or a certain figure to then be successful. It's very much, do you feel it in your heart? Are you on your path towards more goals that you've set for yourself, as opposed to, well, I've reached my first goal, so now I'm done. It's a constant evolution and you're constantly striving for more, but also having that gratitude and appreciation for what you have and what you've had along your journey. So yes, I would absolutely say you are successful. I think you are one of the biggest inspirations in our Candle Makers Collective, our membership, because you're by far the most experienced candle maker, even more than myself. And the knowledge and the community and the heart that you have and that you share is so beautiful and is so welcomed and so appreciated, that when we look to you in your journey and knowing you've still got goals, you've still got dreams, and yet you're humble with what you've created and what you have achieved, it's just so inspiring. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for just doing you and being on your journey, because it is so inspiring to the other candle makers that not only listen to this podcast, but absolutely the ones in the membership.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because I have to say, when I joined the collective, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to expect, but that has been a big joy is not the right word, but it is. It's been a big joy sharing, because all those years I like held all those secrets close to my chest, and it's not secrets, but I didn't talk to any other candle makers. It wasn't that sharing of knowledge, and that's what I enjoy about the collective. You know, I can get on there and blah 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 blah, and I don't mind sharing, because you know, we're this great little group. But not just sharing, but I learn stuff too. Like, I think it was it
Nicola.
Nicola was saying, you know, you need to do this on your webpage, you know, otherwise they just think you're not doing anything. And I thought, oh, geez, I better get my act together. I don't do a lot on there. So, you know, she's brand new. And so I have learnt something from her too. And I do. I love listening to everybody on there. And like Gina and George are such an inspiration, because they want to do big, whereas I'm happy to do small. So there's so much to be learnt from everybody. Yeah,
Yes.
I love it.
It's
Alicia,
really Yes,
Alicia with all her
Alicia.
reels, yeah, just gets me going. I watch her and think I really need to get more motivated. She's just amazing. So many great makers, candle makers in our group, learning
Yes.
both ways, new and old. What's that saying? You can still teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes, absolutely. It's just so beautiful to see the warmth that people bring to
Mm,
the collective. And there's so much knowledge that we each have, but no one gatekeeps. There's no, holding those secrets close to our heart. It's very much if a candle maker has a question in the group, like everyone else comes in and shares. And everyone's perspective is a little bit different.
yes.
But as you say, everyone is learning all the time. And it's just this added element to our journeys where we can feel less alone and less isolated and celebrated when something, positive happens. We can celebrate each other. We can workshop through our challenges. But it's very much about, teamwork and collaboration and community. There's not any competition at all. It's
No,
very yeah, it's just a beautiful space that I'm so proud to be a part of, and I
you
just
should be.
happen to facilitate it. But yeah, I would join the collective if I wasn't running it, because there's just such a beautiful community on the other side, and I think it goes to show when, Sue, like you've been at Maker for such a long time, you could have easily said, well, there's nothing else I don't need community, or I don't need to learn anything else. I know what I'm doing. But as you said, like you're able to share your knowledge as well as receive knowledge, which is so beautiful.
Mm. And it's just good being able to talk about it. I'm sure my family gets, oh, for God's sake, Mum, stop it. We are so over candles. Like, I can just sit there for that whole hour and it's for all of us. We all feel like that, to be able to share and talk candles without people rolling their eyes. It's fabulous. So yes, that's been a big growth for me in the last 12 months, and I have loved it.
I'm so glad. That really does warm my heart, and it makes me feel so appreciative of the space that we've created.
So yeah, I would say if you're a long time, not old, a long time candle maker, don't be put off thinking that you won't get anything out of it. I think it's well worth joining just for that friendship and constant learning still. Like I still learn new things.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Now, we've come to one of my favorite parts of the podcast where I ask all my guests three questions relating to candles. Now, we already did this in our previous episode, but I'm curious to see if your answers have changed or if they're the same. So, question number one is, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
That's still the same.
I
I
thought it
still
might
like
be.
at tropical nights, close of day. I still love Santa's pudding. I do have a little one I've pulled out of the shelves again. It's called Pink Angels. And I did sell it in a shop, but that shop has closed down. So I thought I can start using it again. And I forgot how nice it was. So it's one of my original 10 cents I started with. So that's a new one that I'm just adding in again. I really love that one too. But yeah, they're all too nice. They're all my favorites.
It's like choosing your favorite child. You just
I
can't do
know,
it.
yeah. Mm.
Or at least you shouldn't do it. What do you love about candles is question number two.
I love everything. Um, Mostly I love selling candles at markets. I love it, love it, love it. I love the interaction with the candle addicts. But in my own home, I love decorating with candles. I know I've said that 100 times. And a lot of my posts about that, a lot of my Pinterest is about how to decorate with candles. I love how they make a room feel, from the smell to the flickering flame, and the way they're portrayed on a sideboard. I love making them. Uh, I love testing them. I love testing them. I think my whole house is probably full of candles burning right now that are all testers. There's nothing I don't like about candles. Nothing.
Ditto, 100% agree.
Mm.
And then the last question is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to other candle makers?
Document, document, document. Don't undersell yourself at market. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. I love it. You got a piece of advice I would say: if you're not doing it because you enjoy it, if you're doing it because you're just trying to make money, I think there's lots of other ways that you can go out and make an income. Um, But if you're a candle maker that loves it, it's always going to keep you happy. And regardless of whether you only do one market a month or you're only online sales or you do 6 markets a month, if you love it, you will keep going.
And then you'll be here a decade later.
Yeah, that's going to be my goal.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine 20 years as a candle maker?
Oh, no, I think I'll be a bit senile then.
Too funny. So thank you so much for being on the podcast again. As always, it's such a joy chatting with you about candles, and it's a sort of conversation that just flows so beautifully and so easily. And we can talk about candles forever. It's just a topic I will never ever tire of, and I'm sure you're the same. For the listeners that would love to get in touch with you to send a message or say hello, where can we find you online?
I am on Facebook. That's my main page. So Revamped Treasures on Facebook. Also on Instagram. And I've just started playing around with TikTok, but I'm not very good.
Oh,
And
okay.
I am on Pinterest, but Pinterest and Instagram tie up together now. So just have a look for me. I think most of my little headers, little headers on Facebook have either a picture of the car or me with the candles. And can I just apologise for me walking around the house with the dogs are barking. We live rurally, and if somebody walks up my driveway, the dogs will eat them. And I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody here.
It adds to the fun of the first video podcast.
I do apologise, but yeah, if they ate somebody, I'd be in serious trouble.
True. No, all good. No problem. No problem at all. Thank you, Sue, again so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you for welcoming me into your Candle Collective. It's been amazing, and I love being on your podcast.
Love it. So good. Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.